we've been solving the square roots, and the big thing that we want to do is be able to take the square root of both sides. The best way to be able to do that is to get into a binomial that's squared, so that way we can eventually take square roots. So we're going to take a look at some ways that we can get there, and we'll practice with some of these complete trinomials first. Okay, so we have x squared plus 6x plus 9. We're going to break that down to x squared plus 6x plus whatever number would squared would be equivalent to 9. So we all know that 3 squared is equivalent to 9. So what's nifty about this is that this blank and this blank are going to be the same. X squared plus 6x plus 3, 3 squared, that's the same as x plus 3 squared. And the reason this works is because x squared plus 6x plus 9, if we were to factor this, it would be x plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay, let's take a look at another example. We have x squared minus 8x plus 16. That's going to be x squared minus 8x plus something squared. Okay, well, let's see, 16 is 4 squared. And you see how it's minus here? That's because we have a minus 8x for both of these as well. So it's going to be x minus 4 quantity squared. Let's try another one. We have x squared minus 10x plus 25. We have x squared minus 10x plus blank squared. So what squared equals 25? Well, that's just 5 squared. Okay. So we have x blank blank quantity squared. Let's figure out, is this going to be a plus or a minus? All right. This is a minus 5 squared. Okay. Now let's start going the other way just so we can start seeing this relationship. Okay. We know that x minus 7 squared, we can expand that out with the box if we need to. Okay. We'll just do a quick box off to the side here. X negative 7, x negative 7. We have x squared negative 7x, negative 7x, and 49. Right. So this is going to be x squared minus 14x plus 49. All right, which we know, because we know this is going to be x squared minus 14x plus, I'm actually going to write it as negative 7 squared. Okay, negative 7 squared. It's the same as 7 squared, but there's a small distinction. Okay. So these next few here, you'll notice we do not have a full trinomial. And so we have some blanks, and we're going to have to be able to fill in the rest of these. Okay. This is a pretty common setup for what we'll be seeing. And so we'll come back to this x squared minus 20x plus blank, and this x minus blank. Okay. Let's take a look at this next line. X squared plus 16x plus blank, also the same as x squared plus 16x plus 8 squared. That's going to be x plus blank squared. So we need to fill in these blanks. Okay. We have x squared plus 16x. Well, we know it's going to be 8 squared, so that's 64. That's going to be x plus 8 squared. Right. So I'm going to show you the secret to help us figuring out all these blanks. We have x squared plus bx plus blank. Well, how do we know what goes here? Well, let's start off with this middle one. X squared plus 16x. Oh, sorry, plus bx. Sorry, x squared plus bx plus, and this is the tricky part. This is going to be b over 2 squared. Okay, b over 2 squared. So whatever our middle coefficient is, we're going to take half of that and square it. If we look back to all these examples, we have half of 6 is 3. Half of, let's see, -8, we should actually make this -4. So that matches up here. Half of -10 is actually -5. And now you see why I have -7 in this example here. Okay. With x squared plus bx plus b over 2 squared. So what does that look like in our trinomial? That's going to be b squared over 4. Okay. But it's this little number here inside these tiny parentheses that's going into our binomial. It's going to be x plus b over 2 squared. X plus b over 2 squared. Let's take a look now back at our x minus 20x, x squared minus 20x plus blank. Okay. This is still going to be x squared minus 20x plus, all right, what is half of -20? Well, that's going to be -10. Okay. And so that's why we have x minus 10 quantity squared. This is negative, so it has to be minus. And finally, fill out that trinomial with 100. Let's do these last two together quickly. X squared minus 7x plus blank. Well, that's going to be x squared minus 7x plus -7 over 2, half of our middle term squared. Okay. X squared minus 7x plus -7 over 2 squared. So our binomial from here is really easy. We're just inserting this number, x minus 7 over 2 squared. When we actually square that out to finish our trinomial, we have 49 over 4. Now this last one's a little tricky. We have x squared minus 6 over 5x plus, okay, what's half of 6/5? -6/5. Well, with -6/5, dividing it by 2 isn't necessarily the easiest way to think about it. Instead, we're going to multiply this by 1 half, which equals -6 over 10. Okay, so you can always double the denominator and I'll cut the whole thing in half. But we need to simplify it to -3 over 5. Use the bell. We have x squared minus 6 over 5x plus -3 over 5 squared. Our trinomial is going to be -3 over 5 squared, which is 9 over 25. And finally, we have this double blank here. It's going to be plus or minus. It's going to be minus because this number is negative, -3 over 5. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and do this next one on your own. We have x squared plus 3 over 8x plus blank. I want you to come up with the trinomial breakdown, but in your answer, I'm looking for the binomial. Okay. Work on this one on your own.